Welcome to Wholehearted Healing with Jo, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey of healing body, mind, and soul. I'm Jo, a manual osteopath and holistic health coach, here to help women like you reconnect with your authentic self, release what no longer serves you, and step into your highest potential. Together, we'll explore empowering tools, have soulful conversations, and transformative practices to guide you toward wholehearted living. Whether it's emotional healing, physical alignment, or finding balance in your life, this is your space to grow, heal, and thrive. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin this beautiful journey together. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about rest, and this was inspired by, on Monday this week, I was inspired by a post that I saw talking about rest. And I want to give you a different perspective on what I feel rest is, because I feel like people think that rest is about doing nothing and being lazy, and I personally believe that is not true, and that rest is really about choosing things that fill up your cup, right? Things that give you energy, things that make you feel good. And so I want to reframe what rest actually means. And if you find rest challenging and you're also struggling with stress and burnout and feeling overwhelmed, this is 100% going to be a great episode for you. So let's kind of dive into it. So in the world of stress and nervous system regulation, a lot of people talk about rest. And I talk about rest all the time. I truly believe in rest. I am a person who has been burnt out, who has been overwhelmed and dealt with stress and been anxious, right? And I think as much as rest can feel uncomfortable, a lot of times it's more so about finding like the right type of rest. The post that I saw was someone who is in kind of, my industry, we'll say, of, working with people to release tension, regulate their nervous system, right? All those types of things. And as much as I agreed with what she said, I also did not fully, because I think it gives people this perspective that rest always does have to be hard. She was talking about how rest is challenging, or can be very challenging, and not actually beneficial for people who are stressed and dealing with nervous system dysregulation. And as much as that's 100% true, because if any of you have dealt with stress or you've been stressed and you've noticed like, oh, I can't sit and do nothing, like my brain would explode, like I wouldn't be able to just like turn my brain off. I can't do that, right? As much as that is challenging, and maybe like sitting in stillness is like really hard for you, that's not the only form of rest. And so I think as a society, as people, as women, we need to reframe what rest really is. Rest to me is really just about taking yourself out of a situation or out of your everyday, right? The things you do all the time. You're always a mom, you're always a wife, you're always a parent, you're always a worker, whether it's an employer or an entrepreneur, right? Or an employee, sorry. We're always doing things in our daily life consistently. And rest to me really means that you get to take a break from that. You get to slow down. You get to support yourself the way that you need to be supported or nourished, right? And I find what a lot of people more so are missing is not so much this element of they have to be in stillness. I think that don't get me wrong, 100%. I think if we can all learn how to do that, it would be beneficial for us for sure. But I think what a lot of people are missing in their lives right now is the sense of joy and the sense of happiness and the sense of purpose. And when we get caught up in our mundane and we just are doing things to be busy and to just keep up with everything, it takes the joy, it takes the fun, it takes the happiness out of our life. And that's where I think we need to rest to bring those things back in for us. But rest isn't just like a one size fits all, right? Rest looks different for every person. And it's not just sitting in silence and sitting in stillness and meditating and being quiet and having to remove the world from us. It's not what it's about. Our lives don't have to be boring. We can go do things and have fun and enjoy life and still feel very rested and very nourished. So there's actually 7 types of rest, believe it or not. I'll actually kind of pull them up here. So we have things like, and I just want to make sure that I get them all because I'm going to forget the list. But there is different types of rest, and we need different things at different times. Like sometimes you might literally need to sit in silence, or you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so overstimulated. I just need a break. I just need to like shut my brain off. And so that's absolutely needed times, but it's not always the type of rest that we need. So we have physical rest, right? Which literally talks about like sleeping, relaxing your body, maybe going for a massage, doing stuff like that. We have mental rest. So this is like taking away the ability, or not the ability, but taking away the need to just like be on all the time mentally and like think of things. And like, so this can be like, you can read to just like to take your brain off of things. You can meditate, you can literally do nothing, right? We have emotional rest, we have sensory rest, we have creative rest, social rest, and spiritual rest. And so all of those, and I actually made a post about this on my Instagram, but all of those are different forms of rest that we need at different times, right? It's why you can't always have like one routine that just works for everything, right? Like sometimes you have to add in different components. Rest, when I think about it, and because like I've worked with athletes in my career of things, and I think we need to start thinking about rest when we think of like, when you look at an athlete, when they have a rest day, they're not just lounging on the couch doing nothing, right? Yeah, there might be a lot of relaxation or just like low key, not high performance, but like their rest days in the gym are like going for a walk, doing some light aerobic exercises, doing some stretching, doing some mobility, maybe doing some light weightlifting, right? Like lighter amounts of weights, or just less weight or no weight, but still doing the movements, right? So even on their rest days, they're still moving, they're still doing things, right? And so rest is not about like just sitting and doing nothing. Can it be beneficial for us? Absolutely. It can totally be healing for us. But I also think that it's unrealistic to think that everybody needs that one form of rest. And then it's also unrealistic to tell people that rest is scary and bad and going to feel hard, Like when I was stressed and I was dealing with the things that I was dealing with, which was a lot of like, I get very like, I overthink things a lot. But I also feel a lot of like, I feel fatigue, right? I can feel very tired, where I just want to sleep. So I need more of like physical rest as well. But also I was just like caught up in my routine, and I just like needed to do something different. I'm like, I just want to have time to go have fun. I just want to have time to go do something I actually want to do. When I was in school, I was like, man, I just really want to read a book that is not anatomy or physiology, Like I just wanted a break from what I was doing, and that in itself allowed me to recharge, right? When I was able to give myself the space for that, that made me feel good. That made me feel like I was supporting myself the way that I wanted. I was able to do the things that I wanted to do, right? While also still supporting myself by, showing up for work every day, doing my schoolwork, doing, whatever. I still got my everyday things done, but I didn't have to, like just sit and do nothing. That wasn't what was going to help me necessarily, right? Some moments, yes, but most times and most often, no. And for me as well, I do believe that we have to rest less if we create more balance and harmony in our lives. So again, I think a lot of us need time and breaks and time away from things because we are so caught up in all of the things that we're doing, and it's overwhelming us and it's burning us out. And then we have no time for anything, or we don't know what lights us up anymore, or we're just like totally drained, right? So looking at different types of rest, and I said this because I talked about this a little bit on my Instagram stories, ask yourself, what do I need right now? Like what is it that I need? Is it a cup of water? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to just sit and watch a movie, right? Turn my brain off. Do I need to read my book? Do I want to socialize and sit with friends? Do I want to be all by myself? Because I do need social, distance and rest that way. Do I need to do something quiet, be in nature, have a bath because I'm sensory, I'm overloaded, right? How are you actually feeling? And what is actually going to serve you from a rest perspective by taking it away or changing it up in some way, shape, or form? So that's what I want you guys to look at when you're looking at your types of rest or what you're doing. And I don't want you to keep thinking that I don't want you to think that rest just means I have to be boring and lazy, and if I'm burnt out, I can't do anything. That's not the truth at all. How many times have you been burnt out and overwhelmed with things, and then you cancel a plan, and it's like the weight is just lifted off of your chest, right? And now you have the space to sit and watch the show you wanted to watch, right? Or now you have the space to sit and do the thing that you wanted to do originally, right? And just that commitment was getting in the way, right? So nervous system regulation is it's very complex, but also not challenging. When you really look at what's going on with people, it is hard to make change for sure. But my belief is that if we have the right types of rest, we know how to show up and support ourselves, and we know how we show up when we're stressed, we can change those things and we can turn those things around quite quickly, or at least have the clarity and know the direction that we're moving in. And this is what I help women with when it comes to my coaching programs and my sessions, is if you're unclear about where you need to actually rest or how you need to prioritize things or the boundaries you maybe need to set in, those things are things that I help you kind of pinpoint. I help you navigate the patterns, the things that you're kind of going through. And I can sometimes see things that you can't, because sometimes it's just hard to see ourselves, right? Some people can see me and be like, oh, these are your gaps. This is where, things are kind of falling apart. And this is where, you could support yourself more. That's essentially what I'm there to help you do and help you get the clarity on, so that you can then implement those suggestions or implement changes however you see fit in your life to navigate and shift things and move forward. And so that you don't have to be in this state of burnout, stress, and overwhelm and then be like, oh my gosh, I'm so burnt out. I just want to sit here and lay here, like I'm totally a vegetable, which we've all done. But stress in itself and overwhelm and burnout can be rectified or supported with rest. You just have to know the right type. So again, we have physical, mental, emotional, sensory, creative, social, and spiritual rest. There's 7 types. You can literally search this up on Google, but I do also have a post about this on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, I highly recommend that you do. When it comes to rest and it comes to, just dealing with stress, overwhelm, burnout, that sort of thing, nervous system dysregulation, I am going to be hosting something in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Again, if you're not following me on Instagram, this is where I post most of these sorts of things. So definitely that's the place to be if you're interested in this kind of stuff. But I am going to be, coming up with something in the next few weeks. So I will post it here on YouTube as well. If you're on my podcast, if you're listening to my podcast in the other areas, I will also be sharing that throughout the episodes as well. So we're going to be diving into that over the next few weeks. But that's pretty much what I wanted to say around rest. So this was just a nice and short little sweet episodes, kind of impromptu, I knew I wanted to have an episode this week, but the topic I was kind of up in the air about, and I was just like, people need to realize that rest is not hard. And it might be challenging again to slow down, but honestly, if you really want to do something, I don't really feel like that's hard unless you are struggling with boundaries, right? So, or you're struggling with the concept of time. But when I found the hardest time to sit and do nothing, or to just rest, or just rest from a perspective of doing nothing, when I found that hard, it was because I needed a different type of outlet. like I needed to go for a walk or I needed to stretch or move my body, right? So I think that like that's where you have to have that discernment to know what you actually need. And when you have that, it's so much easier to decide what's the next thing to do and what's going to help you get out of your state that you're currently in from a nervous system perspective. So that's what I got. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, wonderful week. I will hopefully be back next week. That is the goal. And like I said, keep an eye out for things that I'm talking about. And again, if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you do, because that is definitely where I'm at. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of share a little bit more with you guys and go from there. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and I will see you guys in the next podcast episode. Bye.